Good evening and welcome to Resources Resolutions. Uh, our seventh session is scheduled for the day. We've had it scheduled twice before and had problems, so we haven't had a session in a month. September, we had the first one I was under the weather, and the second scheduled one, we had problems here at our broadcast site with regard to the Wi Fi and the transmission, so we did not go ahead and have the session. For those who haven't seen us or are not familiar with us, we are a New Orleans based uh, collaborative network attempt between nonprofits locally here for and also out of our area, as well as for profits. Same situation. Uh, as we are a hybrid event or session, meaning we not only come, we ask people to come in person, especially for those in the local networks, so that we can get more fellowship and also identify areas of cooperation that can be developed and helped. But we also do online, live, every other Thursday. We try and meet at 5 p.m. Presently, we've been honored to use the R.E. Smith Library in New Orleans, one of the part of the New Orleans library system, headquartered in Lakeview, New Orleans, for those who are familiar, and it was rebuilt or built new after Katrina. And we're privileged to be able to use one of their conference rooms to do the transmission and for the session. So enough about that. And again, uh, it is a little difficult because we're trying to meet two worlds that have always been traditionally separate: the nonprofit and the for-profit. And everyone likes their own turf, so to speak. But we're trying to show how both can help each other out as well as help within their own system, and us to be kind of the coordinator and whatever we can to provide services for these organizations, either direction or direct information or research for them. Now, what we do is, of course, we're hoping these sessions and some of the meet and greets we do will develop membership locally, obviously, because we'd like to get our in-person levels up, numbers up. Uh, and also, we do other types of recruitment. One of the add-ons that we started in June, end of June, is called Meetup, meetup.com, which we've explained on several situations, but we'll start again. This is an international software that allows people to come together with common interests in their area. So whether you're a knitting group or whether you're a bowling group, a political group, whatever, you can find out people that share your interests, either new or existing people in that area, and attend your meetings. Now, with the advent of the pandemic, that 2 to 3 year stint, no one was getting together. So meetup.com became primarily a virtual software system where people would broadcast from the comfort of their home or anyway isolated, and it would strictly be attended by those people who would pick up the broadcast. Uh, meetup.com is free. We would encourage you to join, please. And of course, you can subscribe to our station with the Resources Resolution. We only have a couple of others that we want Resources Resolution to see us to our particular events. But there's numerous. You can search by zip code and search by category if you like an interest to see if there's something like if you're a painter, an artist, or just looking for friends or socialization. You can put in the keywords and the locations you want to look at, and they will tell you what meetup.com association, the name of the group, let you join it. All of them are free, and also tell you when they're going to have an event. So maybe some of those will be in person now, and also a lot of these are hybrid, where they do in person and also virtual. Virtual continues because so many people got used to that, whether it was from their work environment as well as to the isolation due to the pandemic. So we're glad whichever way you come. But if you do meetup.com, like I said, we keep tally of who we're getting. We're at a total of 16 members. That's since the end of June. We had normally we were reported when September. Our September growth was three new members. Let's see if I can go with the names. The first one was on September 4th. Al Elaine And this gentleman, I imagine, was from Destrehan, which is a little bit up the road. So he would certainly rarely attend our in-person session because of the distance, unless he happened to be coming to New Orleans. And if he came in today, he would probably go into the New Orleans Saints football game and certainly not attend here. In addition to Al, we also had on 9/12 Jennifer Moore. She's in a town called Harvey. That's in our neighboring parish. We call our counties parishes, and we're the only state, I think, that does so. But in our neighboring Jefferson Parish, and she lives also on the other side of the river, which we call the West Bank. That's where Harvey is. And she came to us on 9/12. And our last on 9/13 was Andy Nguyen. And Andy was in Metairie, which is also in Jefferson Parish, the next door, but on the east bank, on our side of the river. So we welcome them in case they're watching. And of course, we'd love for you all to join Meetup. One, not only because you can come or watch us, but you'll get notifications of all of our events, so that way you can be, and reminders, so that way you can be aware to watch us or to attend for the ones that you really want to do some socials there. So that we can start developing the network. It's very important to me, and I'm hoping it's going to be of relevance to you all. We have gotten more interest from the nonprofit sector, of course, than the for-profit, and understandably so. We have a huge number of nonprofits in New Orleans, and many, a large percentage of those are relatively new, unfunded, small, I will call them startups, some of them, but they aren't the gigantic international ones, which we have, but they need as much help as they can get in not only staffing, but financial, et cetera. And so they're always interested in finding ways to be successful and to make their nonprofit grow. But again, for the for-profits, we want to encourage referrals among themselves and to the nonprofits and vice versa. So there's a group of candidates or potential customers within the individuals that join our group on a nonprofit or for-profit and their families, et cetera, that will offer opportunities for anyone in the group to actually perhaps profit, and I say profit by being able to contact and getting a referral from the person here that's a member to actually contact those individuals for perhaps consideration of their product or service. Okay. So join meetup.com if you will. We'd also love you to subscribe, as they always say, all these channels, like anytime, but if you're on the channel, but also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, when we broadcast more than YouTube. YouTube is our core social media platform. Why? Because they keep the archive the programs. So that way you can go back and see any of the old shows and any of the other shows that we do that aren't related to resources resolutions. Whereas the other social medias keep them for a very limited time, if at all, 24 hours, et cetera. So if you don't catch it when it's live, you probably can't see it. Whereas the advantage of this is that if you're busy or at work or you're en route home at this time and you can't come in person and you can't watch it because you're in transit, you can watch it later tonight or any other time by just going to our YouTube channel. And that channel is R_revue, R Review. If you can see up in the upper right corner, there's a little, our brand, there's a little white block that has an ant and with a red star on it. And we'll don't need to go over the history of that, but that's our brand. That ant serves a lot of our programmings and differs by what the ant is holding. There it's our producing network, so that's why you see REVUE with a space. That's our channel and our production company, so you can remember at any time. So you can join YouTube, which is great because of the accessibility and permanence. You can watch us on Facebook. Facebook, we have 3 channels. Under my profile page, Bob Bockelman, Boeckelman, which is a lot to spell. Also one called The New Deal, which used to be our dinner club, and we haven't reactivated in a while. But you can watch it there, or our television network, New Orleans TV Internet System, okay, NOTVIN, also on Facebook. So you can check those out and watch the live performance. It won't be rebroadcast many times. It certainly won't be kept. Also, we're on X, aka formerly known the network formerly known as Twitter, and we don't do tweets, we do posts, but we do the same live broadcast we're doing on us. So if you follow Twitter, there it's under the New Deal, okay, which is again the name of our dinner club. And lastly, we're on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn with R Review, or just R Review. I forgot. I don't think there's a space. And you can also watch the same program that we have posted there. There might be a link. It might not be direct on the first time, but I think it's live now, but it stays on there for a short period of time. You can go through the link and see it after the fact, but within a short period. Okay. So that's how you can watch the hybrid portion, the online portion of our organization. In person, like I said, we've been headquartered here at the library almost since the beginning. We tried two others, but they all had problems. So this one has been very gracious and courteous to allow us to have a meeting every other Thursday at 5 p.m. That's about the most we can do, and the way there's some consistency in our programming and attendance. All right. So we talked about, so we would love word of mouth reference. Anybody you know, tell them to please watch our channel. Please subscribe. As we say, we beg you, and hit the bell so you'll be notified on at least YouTube, or watch it on any of the other social media platforms, and or attend in person if you're in the vicinity and you have the time to participate. We certainly want to start varying. We've done some meet and greets at coffee shops at different times, try and get the folk out. We haven't done any after hours yet because we really want to get a core group that is attending, so there'll be at least that at the social event, and hopefully more will come as a result of having a core group that attends the social events, not just the sessions. All right. Well, enough on that. I don't know. I wanted to just go over that since it's like a relaunch here, since we've had a whole month without any broadcasting or any session. The next other way of membership recruitment we talked about is by joining other networks. We're trying to do those. The largest state network of nonprofits moved before Katrina, not before the pandemic, to Baton Rouge, and we can't get information on the viability in the New Orleans area. For the most part, their concentration is Baton Rouge and upwards to the middle of the state, to the northern part. There's a lot of activity there, which is great from a hybrid point, but doesn't really help us on the local level where we really need to get our people together in person. So we're still considering joining that organization. There is something that we've developed also in finding ways there are different tools. One we call the new business report, generated by both parishes or counties, that indicates whenever you would be a new business, you would have to get a license, just like do any kind of, whether you're a nonprofit or for-profit. So that way, any kind of tax revenue or something that might be due will be able to be identified, and you'll be registered with the Secretary of State. So your entity will be able to be accessed by anyone to show that it is a legit, as opposed to some type of online scam or other, even in-person scam. One other thing, we have a promo situation for our members. Now, this won't last forever, and it's kind of, I won't say unique, but it's exclusive to our organization for a while. As you know, whenever you probably get in the mail all the time, or emails, solicitations by banks, credit unions, etc., for you to join them, deposits, refer them. They'll give you a reward if you refer other people to potential new customers. So there's a federal credit union which is established in San Antonio, Texas, that has changed their name because they're now national. I don't think they're international. They're national in many of the states. And they came into Louisiana last year. Now, I don't know about their locations other than my interest is, of course, New Orleans. They currently have 3 and are anticipating opening a 4th. One is in the mid-city area near downtown. One is in the uptown Riverbend, what we call the Riverbend. And the latest, and the one I want to tell you about, is uptown, but mid uptown, and that is they're in the 4500 block, 4600 of Ferret Street, which is very near Napoleon Avenue, which is a main thoroughfare in New Orleans, uptown residential, that divides the city into two huge places. The first 44 blocks are from the Canal Street, which is the main central district when we were growing up for business and retail, coming up 44 blocks by streetcar or car to Napoleon. And then if you continue up to 88 blocks is where the river makes a bend called River Bend, and hence that other Federal Credit Union branch is also there. The reason why I'm asking you to consider this one on Ferret is because of this situation. First of all, we would like you to speak to Quiana. I think it's spelled Q-U-I-A-N-A or Q-I-A-N-A. She's our loan officer representative. Well, not loan because we're not making loan. They do offer loan. They offer checking accounts, savings accounts, mortgages, etc. But what we're doing is they're running a promotion for us, and not just for us, but we're trying to take advantage of it, whereby if you join with a very minimal deposit of money to a checking account and a saving account with them, what happens is then you make 10 purchases within 60 days, you will get a reimbursement or not a reimbursement, you will get your account receive $200 deposit from them. Well, that sounds pretty good, I guess. Well, the good thing about it is that if you use this person and use our name and my name, you will qualify this for the 60 days. Now, why do I say? Now, you see that, well, the banks do that. It's always like $200, $300, maybe $500 deposit, and then thousands of dollars that you got to spend within a certain period of time, usually a very limited period of time, to qualify for the promo. Well, this one, because it wants to be important to the community, and first of all, we haven't even said the name. Listen to this name. The name is Credit Human. So it's kind of a play on words with regard to, instead of credit union, Credit Human, because they wish to be part of each of their communities. They're very active in the community, and we're hoping to join it to create a joint relationship with them for working with us, for us helping them out as we can, not only bringing people, but getting joint memberships and doing things because they really want to be active in our community. So if you decide to do this, and specifically if you contact, and I don't have the phone number, but you'll have to look it up, Credit Human, H-U-M-A-N, or Google it on Ferret, F-R-E-R-E-T, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70115. And when you call there, then there's one number goes to, and whoever answers, just ask for Quiana if you want to. Now, you can do this online and on the phone. If you do it online, it's probably going to go directly to the headquarters in San Antonio. So that might be a problem with regard to getting this promo, since this one is for us only, even though new members are entitled to that as well. So either call Quiana or, like I say, go online and you can sign up, and you don't have to go in person if you don't want. But the minimum deposit is, I believe, $5 into the savings account, and I think it's $25 into the checking account. So for a total of $30, wow, Bob, you can get $200. Well, here's a little bug. Like I say, you do have to you get a debit credit card with your opening and approval of your accounts. Now, remember, if you use that card and you hadn't put anything more than that, what is it, $25 I just said in the thing, then you're going to be building up an amount that you have to pay. Now, again, as long as it's less than $200, you'll be get some, if not all of that, back within 60 days. But you're going to have to make a payment on it after 30 days. If you put more than the $25, like I put $150 to make sure, and this is how minimal. You can just buy a stick of gum, if you can buy a pack of gum, probably $1 now, 25 cents, whatever, and that'll count. So here's the deal. In order for you to really make sure that you're going to be clearing money from this promotion, just do something that you normally do that's inexpensive. Like I go to the coffee shop every day. So you can go to the same place and just buy from that place. You can also do this. Like I always have a coffee, and I'm always interested in something, whether it's a pastry, yogurt, it's something to eat because I go in the morning. So it's like a breakfast. So if you split that bill, meaning if you run it twice on your card, that's covered at two, even though it's the same meal. One person, that's 2 credits for you. So you already got 2 done. All you need is 8 more. So I had my 10 done in the first week of signing up way back in August or early September, August 29th. So that way you can get and of course I gave tips and everything else. So, but I still have cleared because the most I spent of my money was, I have $85 left of that 150, I believe it was. And then I'm getting the 200. So I will wind up with $285 in the next few weeks. So depending on how cautious you are, if you just go willy-nilly charging hundreds of dollars on your first thing and you only get 1 credit, you're going to be in the pinch because you're not taking advantage and getting the refund if you want a reimbursement. You'll get the $200, but you'll still owe a heck of a lot more, excuse me. All right. So again, enough of that. But we think it's a neat deal, and we're hoping that it will entice you to join the Credit Human as well as join our organization. And if you want more information, you can contact me directly through Facebook. Also email Bob at, again, using our production company, Bob at rrevue.net. We're not a com and not an org. Bob at rrevue.net. You can send me an email on any of these questions or anything we talk about. Also, one thing we didn't talk about is that if you're watching on any of our platforms, as you know, if you use social media on live events, you're able to make comments, whether it's a question, criticism, or whatever. On your social media platform that you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, etc., you can go in and make a comment. It will show up. Now, I don't see it on my screen because, first of all, I have visual impairment, but my good production manager who watches this will see any of the comments that come in. Now, again, when if you're using that, you don't have to put your full name, and you can use a username that's just made up if you like. Whatever you have, that's fine. But it will indicate on the screen what platform you're commenting from, like whether you're watching it from Facebook, YouTube, etc. So don't hesitate to do one of 2 things, even during this show. If you have a question right now, go ahead and type it in, and Len will tell us what it is, and we'll try and answer it or clarify it or certainly get back to you after the program, okay? So it's a great communicator. For those who don't use email or familiar with text, this is a quick online thing where you could do it while you're watching. And today, 90, I don't know if it's 90%, but a huge percentage of our population are used to texting and used to commenting on social media right away, all day long, all night long in some regards. Okay. Now, 2 more things. Well, besides the new business report, we said that tool we talked about that we have, and we can identify nonprofits, and we want to contact, when we get people, those newly established groups, employers, nonprofit, to consider our organization. Because if they're new, they need to grow, and they need business, and they need important information like referrals, which we can provide to them. Okay. The other thing is there's a tool called GuideStar. Now this is predominantly nonprofits again. GuideStar.org, GuideStar.org, O-R-G. That's usually a nonprofit. And you can join that for free if you're a nonprofit. I think even if you're not a nonprofit, I'm not sure on that one. You don't have to be a 501c3 where you are qualified with the state or with the IRS, to get donations tax deductible for your members. But they make listings of your organization, basic demographic, and what kind of revenue stream you have, et cetera, and assets that you have. And anyway, and we have been going through that listing and identifying the new startups. We identify both. We're making a listing of both but we're talking about thousands of groups in the New Orleans area. the 3 or 4 times I've gone in have given us 3 different amounts on numbers, excuse me, on the number of nonprofits. This is in the guide, so it's nonprofit only. One time was like 1,400, 1,100. Another time was 3,000 something, and now I'm hearing it's 4,000. So we have a lot to develop and to identify. But what we want to do for our members, and I've done a few, and depending on how much time we get through today, we have, I think, 65. I'm doing a spreadsheet for those who are familiar with that in Excel, dividing the nonprofits that are established with funds and the new nonprofits, whether it's a startup, that really don't have any revenues reported and stuff like that. And we're going to obviously solicit those individuals, those groups, to consider us to make our population grow. And we'll, like I say, at the end of the meeting, depending on the next thing we go, how long it takes, we will actually give out some of those names to talk about. We hope to have, when the list is completed, which is taking a while because I'm the only one doing it with the bad eyes. So that's why we're trying to get some volunteers. Again, you know, any volunteers, and some of these will be paid. We use also another old service, Craigslist, if you're familiar with that. That used to be very popular for years. It's kind of lost its, I think it had problems out. Everybody these things have problems. So it's not as popular, but we put all of our positions, whether they're paid or volunteer, on Craigslist. So that way, if you follow Craigslist, follow Resources Resolutions, you'll see the couple of jobs. We have some positions. Now, none of these are full-time employment. These would be independent contractors. Some of them, like I said, most of them are volunteers and unpaid or a one-time payment based on an individual project they'll work on. But these are the things they can help us with by doing this, searching through these softwares and identifying these businesses that I just tell you I do, or these other nonprofits and for-profits that we wish to contact. So if you know anyone, send them my way. I'll go to Craigslist and respond to the ads there. All right. Lastly, and this is not really a recruitment tool per se, even though we're hoping when we show you list these, we'll show you, hey, years ago, before the federal government started cutting back on nonprofit grants of any type, but specifically huge grants to nonprofit grants to like the Arts Foundation and stuff like that because of budgetary constraints. So for the most part, you know, grants come from either your local area if there's some, and or maybe the state, and then still some in the federal. So we have a local foundation. We have several, okay, so not, but I mean, most of them are like individual or run by an organization or family. And you know, you may or may not have access to that or know how to identify it. Okay, by using guidestore.org, you can identify what nonprofits are in New Orleans or which ones have grants. And what I did, now these are, because we did these in July and August, or in August at least, most of these, for the most part, are finished now because we're already in October. They only run for a limited time, X number of months. So that's why, but they do publish them every month or beginning of the year. There'll be almost the whole year's published. So when we notify our member, if there's something that they see that they want to take advantage of and qualify for, they can get in the door to try and get a grant to help them out. So let's give you some samples. Some of them, they're not all universal. It's not $1 million grants for the most part per se. The first one is called Park and Parkway. Tree planting. This is actually sponsored by the city of New Orleans and the Parkway Department, and that's, I don't know, it's on the road. I forgot what department that's under, but Parkway Department is the one sponsored. And they had, when they first gave, a huge amount at the beginning. You have $225,000 in this endeavor, and they were giving grants up to $20,000. Now, the grant is not for you as an individual. Hey, I'll take, and it's for planting trees. Well, why do you want to plant trees? Well, first, several reasons. One, a lot of New Orleans greenery were based on oak trees that are hundreds of years old. And unfortunately, a lot of these are now falling or getting cut down because of damage from insects, etc. And they need to be really replenished with any type of tree that would be a shade. And why I want to put a shade? For two reasons. The trees not only will help your property, even if we talk about a public property, like a lot of these are planted They don't have to be on your property per se. Even better if you want them on your property. But let's say you live in the urban area, and as you know, there's going to be a sidewalk usually in front of your house or your property line, and then there's a space usually of greenery or dirt until the curb of the street. Well, you can plant these there, even though that's not your ground per se. And these people will, the parkway, the ones who get the grants, so the organizations that are willing to get the plants and plant them for you, if you qualify, they will get up to $20,000 for each grant that they get. Okay, but the most that would have been paid for this year would have been 200, which I know they haven't used 225,000. I don't know what the current amount is. And as I said, this is dated information there because this was done in August when we were formulating this, and most of these, and that ran the beginning period. That was beginning on August 11th, and that ended 9/8. So that's already over, and that would have been reported in September when we were originally trying to set up our session to do this report, part of the report. The second one, now this is a local, long-time independent retailer. Now, I don't even think it's the same person that started it because it's been so old. I've been here so long, I can say, oh. It's called Aunt Sally's, and I believe it's Pralines. Is that right? Aunt Sally's Pralines? Aunt Sally's. And what they did was they set up for their employees the Aunt Sally's Employee Fund. And what happens is these are the monies that they're going to be paying to their employees to help them out in, like, let's say they had maybe a terrible disaster in their house. They lost a family member, or they lost their home or something like that. I'm not saying they're going to buy you a new home, but it's there. The monies that they put into this fund, and this is funded primarily, if not all, totally, I would imagine, by the employer, Aunt Sally, which is a nationally known entity now in the French Quarter, and they probably have multiple locations. But they sell one of our favorite desserts, even though it's not good for diabetes. It's called praline. If you know what a praline is, it's like it's got pecans in it, and it's not fudge. Okay, some people say, "Oh, that's fudge." It's I've forgotten what's this. Yeah, I'm really lost for explaining the thing, but they melt down, of course, this stuff and put the pralines in it, and it's got some chocolate, I'm sure, in it because it's chocolate flavored. But anyway, it's a great candy. It hardens and it's sold. It's been available in the Quarter at Aunt Sally's for eons. You can buy bags, you can send them away, and they'll do shipping, everything. So it's, again, it is heavy sugar. So if you're diabetic like myself, that's why I don't buy that many of them, or very little, because of not being able to eat that. But if you come to New Orleans, you have to try one, or if you want to taste in New Orleans, you can contact them and order. But meanwhile, they set up a fund to help their employees when something important happened in their lives that was detrimental. The next one of our most famous restaurants, Commander's Palace. And that's an uptown restaurant and institution with fantastic quality chefs they've had, wonderful jazz brunches, beautiful building in the uptown area, and been popular for all my lifetime. Well, they have also one where they have the Commander's Palace Employee Relief Fund. And that's now both of these are we call open or rolling things. What does that mean? Well, that means it's not a period like we talked about the first one where it was August to September. It runs all continuously every year. Anytime it happens, if you meet your qualifications, when you meet with your employer for whatever the situation you're needing this support, then you will get it. So you don't have to worry, oh, I got to get it in here because it's going to be cut off. No. So whenever you see these kind of employee funds, for the most part, they're continuous. They call them open rolling. All right. The next one is one of our famous banks here called the Fidelity Bank, here for good employee assistance. And again, what do they mean by good employees? I'm sure it's defined. But again, they will give them assistance, and that's another open rolling. So there we have 3 out of the 4 that pertain to individual employers that are ready to help their employees that would need it for whatever reason, whatever would cause their situation. Now, the next one is another common entity besides an employer-sponsored employee situation, and these are community grants. neighborhood grants, whichever you want to call it. And this one is called the Gertown Community Fund. And Gertown is a particular neighborhood. All of our neighborhoods have defined blocks, we call them blocks, obviously, where you divide one street from another. So defined perimeters, territory, London with, and given, sometimes it's a nickname, sometimes it's an official name, but there's a certain territory in almost mid-city, a little bit off of mid-city, central city, I guess it would be called Gertown. And you don't need to know that unless you're local, and the locals will know it. Well, they have a community fund, and their grants are available from, there were 717 to 817. Again, remember, these grants are all, except for the employee funds, ones that were available when I researched it right at the beginning of August. So again, if you were in Gertown, hopefully your homeowners associations or someone who's responsible in your area has gone into these are all coming. I don't know if I said these are all a result of the Greater New Orleans Foundation, which puts out grants of monies to these different things every year. So they are the ones who gave Park and Parkways, instead of the city, the $225,000, because that's when they got that. Each one of these have been given to the organization that's going to be handing out the grants if you qualify. Okay, so Gertown is excuse me. Oh, wow, I need have your water. Okay, next one, number 6, is the Greater New Orleans Foundation Exxon Mobil. So again, that would be for 3 areas: for Saint Bernard, which is a parish; Algiers, which is part of Orleans, and each one of those have different levels of grants. At Saint Bernard, it's up to $10,000, and Algiers is up to $4,000, and that ran from July 11th to August, just 1 month. So if you didn't act quickly, if you were in those areas, your parish people, they didn't get anything from this, okay? The next one, these are what we call individual or family donations. These are usually philanthropic donations by people who are either deceased or extremely wealthy and want to give up some of their funds. This one is called the Albert N. and Hattie M. McClure United Way Repairs. So what this family has done is given a substantial sum of money to the Greater New Orleans Foundation in order for them to give out grants. But the grants here are specifically designated for the United Way, which you know is an international organization, nonprofit. And so they would be the only ones that would qualify this if they qualify. That was open, that's really for 2020, it's open all year through 2024. Now there's another one that's called the, that's open altogether, not 2024. The next one is open 2024. That's called Impact, IMPACT, Special Funding Opportunities for Health and Youth Development. So a lot of the new trends toward grants are for either youth mentoring, youth development, youth religion, or seniors. A lot of us seniors, like myself, are in dire need of, especially with inflation and, of course, fixed incomes at a certain level point, that need some type of assistance. So here, they've given a special fund all during 2024. Now, they don't say the amount, but if you're doing special funding opportunities for health and youth development. So if you're a youth and you need, whether it's you have illness and you might not have insurance, or you need economic development or direction, these will all be given grants throughout 2024 under Organization Impact. Another one that's very popular nowadays is called the LGBTQ. They don't have a plus after that, but I'm sure they modified it. And that's open again for 2024. And those grants are between $5,000 and $10,000. Now, again, we don't know what LGBTQ requirements are. And all these organizations like Impact, whatever, if you feel like you're doing something for youth or mentorship or whatever we tell you, you need to contact these organizations right away. And these, well, they're closed, you can't do it. And then get an idea what's required, then submit the application to the Greater New Orleans Foundation during the time period that it's open for them to consider whether you qualify or not, okay? And once they do this every year, but they're all cutoff periods based on the different grants. Number 10, the Pratt Stanton Manor. Okay, this was, again, a home that started off as a nursing home strictly for elder folks. And it is open 2024 with up to $40,000. But again, it's for elder services. So these would be for services of people that either reside there or somehow meet the qualifications from this organization, Pratt Stanton Manor, which is the name of the home, the residential home, that you could be getting a grant to help you out in whatever ways that they stipulate for services to your elder senior years. Here's another one, and this is another community. We have a little town up the river that happens to be related. My mother's sister was married, lived there most of her life. It was a big industrial oil and gas company, Shell, and I forgot the others, had big plants for gas, oil, chemical called Norco, Norco. And they actually have a community. Norco Community has a grant open all year 2024 for quality of life of residents. So they're charged, whoever's in charge, the mayor and whoever else, to make sure that they have gotten any kind of grant they need up to, well, it doesn't even say what the amount is, to provide improvements in the quality of life of their residents, their citizens, okay? But you would probably have to live in Norco proper. Now, impact, again, we talked about impact for special funding for youth and health development. They have another grant open 2024, and this is for arts, education, youth, health, and social services. So again, some of these overlap with the other one, all during 2024. Impact will be giving grants for like arts, which is great, and education for young people, I imagine, or any age, says education and youth. So all those things will be covered. But again, you would have to get much better definition from impact and then apply to the Greater New Orleans Foundation, all 2024. And the next one is another Norco, and this one, again, that little town Norco has one called economic development. So their powers that be, so hey, here's another opportunity, not just to improve the quality of life of our residents, but also to promote economic development. Because again, as I mentioned, that city basically came about as a result of our dependence on oil and gas and chemical. And in fact, the company that is given the funding to the Greater New Orleans Foundation is Shell Oil. It's a gift of $5 million, and it's open 2024, and the grants range between $10,000 and $50,000. So if you're covered by impact or know anything about that, and you meet one of those, you offer those opportunities for art and education, or you need to receive that, you can apply for a grant from New Orleans Foundation all during 2024, and you could get as much as a minimum of $10,000. Can't beat that. Number 14, and I think is this the last one? Oh, we might have one more. 14, the Freeman Challenge open. Now, the Freeman is part to do with Tulane, and they have this, what they call an open challenge. So it's not just, you apply for the grant. And this runs from September 10th to October 2nd, so it's over too. It's a matching for reserve build. And what you would have to do is you would have to attend this, Are You Ready for an Endowment workshop, to learn all the intricacies of asking for the grant and getting this endowment. But again, as I mentioned, it just closed October 2nd, so it's gone for this year. I'm sure a lot of these will repeat in different amounts. And lastly, 15, the Shelley Foundation. Again, Shelley, not Shelley, S-E-L-L-E-Y, which again, a very famous family that left a lot of money. And this was open July 1st, unfortunately, to August 2nd. And this is for capital needs in the arts, education, environment. So if you could, like, if you were even an art gallery, or more importantly, if you were an art educator, like a painter, not just to sell your works, but to teach people how to paint, then you could apply for these grants. Again, this is over with, but on an annual basis, these are some of the grants. Now, all of these are just specific grants that the Greater New Orleans Foundation, and that's located right downtown at what we call the Circle. We used to call it by the name of a Confederate general. We can't do that anymore. Originally, it was called Symphony, Carousel. I don't know. I don't know if it might be called Unity. They've been tossing around names and whether they should put a different monument, which they took down the original monument. But it forms a circle, and there's buildings all around that circle, and the streetcars go around that circle to continue from uptown to downtown. Well, anyway, they built a brand new building. I think it opened during the pandemic, right at one of the corners of this St. Charles where the streetcar, or maybe Carondelet. And that's where they consolidated all their offices, and that's where you could get the grants and find out any information about their organization. Now, let's see, how are we doing for time? I have to ask. Sorry, we don't have a clock in here, and I can't check my phone. How many? 5:45? Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, and I think it's probably better to just wing the rest of the meeting session or cut it off a little early, rather than even start to read these 65. You'll have lost it its contact. The good thing, since we had two different lists, and hopefully this 65 will be larger because we keep impacting, trying to make it grow, as I say, by doing the research. But what we will do is that the next one, we will focus on this list unless we have some. There's one other thing that might have taken precedence. Now, let me tell you, with regard to our future sessions for 2023, again, in conjunction with these changes by the library here, they have changed our accessibility for November, December, partly because they have increased usage for themselves, for the staff and different programs they have, as well as holidays being closed. So like one of the Thursdays is Thanksgiving. Well, obviously we don't want to come and do this. You don't want to be bothered with this. And so the library's not even open that day. Okay. But for the month of November, we only have one date. We have one Thursday. And I don't have it in front of me, so you'll have to watch. If you're a member of Meetup, that's what's good about Meetup. It has all the dates of the meetings. But it's probably the Thursday before Thanksgiving, which will be, I think, November 17th. Because Thanksgiving is November Thursday, November 23rd. Again, it will be at our 5 o'clock. The problem is that will be the only meeting in the month of November. Normally, we would have two every other Thursday. So we're not getting any availability except for that Thursday at 5 to 6 on November 17th, I'm almost sure. Lastly, December, and this is another one where we don't have much access at all, because the only one we have access is, I believe it's whatever the last Thursday in December is. So that's going to be in between, after Christmas, like the 29th or maybe the 30th. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Like I said, I can't check the phone because I'm using that to broadcast. But I'm not sure we really want to have one. You'll be celebrating with your families, and whether you're off or not, or you might have to work. So again, that one's up and all. We took the opportunity and reserved the room, but once again, we will probably have, we'll go forward with the November, but we might not do the December because it's in between the two holidays, and we're not sure. We'll see. We'll see what's pressing. In January and February gets a little rough for us. Not so much the library because of the advent of Mardi Gras. And we have a lot of Mardi Gras parades, balls in January, and the parade started early February. So we'll have to work around, but I think we'll probably could do it January and February because it's the third Thursday. We'll check on that. Now, the only other thing, which we said, because of this listing there from GuideStar.org of the nonprofits that really have what we call zero assets and zero revenue. Meaning one of two things. Either they didn't report, which they're supposed to do to be on this, involved in the membership, or they really are like a startup organization and haven't gotten any funds at all. And just working, a lot of these are one-person shops where the person with the passion who might be doing, it might be a social worker, might be any level, not an employee, maybe an employee, maybe not, who wants to follow that passion by creating a nonprofit so he or she can service the community with the service or the product that they are actually enthused or relating to. Okay. For those who don't follow our weather meteorological situation, you may or may not know that for at least a month, if not longer, we have been, well, first of all year we've been under tremendous drought, and that's very common throughout the nation. All summer, the hottest drought. We've only had 2 rainy days, to my recollection, for the entire summer. One of them was post-summer. Um, so the rivers are low, everything's drying up. And with that, because our river, Mississippi River, which is our mainstay for water as well as transportation and commodities, economic development, has started to be infiltrated by salt from the Gulf of Mexico. Because the Mississippi River, when it comes down from the north all the way down, it empties into the Gulf of Mexico, which is a saltwater body. So because the Mississippi River is at lower levels, the Gulf levels are coming upriver, where normally the flow of the Mississippi River is so strong because of the volume of water that dissipates that we don't get Gulf water in the Mississippi River. It's strictly freshwater. So that has been coming upstream and getting closer and closer to some of our little towns that have already been impacted are a little closer to the Gulf compared to New Orleans. And they've had, for the longest time, they really had us frightened, and maybe we shouldn't be lifting our fear, that we were going to be impacted in New Orleans proper. Originally, I think they said it was October 28th, right before Halloween, next week. Then they moved it back to the second week of November, then the end of November. Now they're basically saying our area may not get impacted at all, and maybe none of the other areas, because the water, one, they've gotten some rain from the north. Some of the rivers have gotten a little bit of water over the last couple of weeks that filters down, but it takes its time. It doesn't come when it's up in Ohio or all those places, Arkansas. It doesn't get here that same day that it's raining. It could be weeks after. But they had built an underwater trench that they elevated to like a levee. We call them levees, where it's built up on the base of the river going up 35, 40 feet, I don't know. And that, for years, it was lower, and it would prevent the salt from coming in. But because the river is so low, they were going over. So they've raised that X number of weeks ago. And it seems to be holding and preventing or minimizing the amount of salt that is will come into our area. So I was going to do on one of my regular channels a situation of how does a person react to this in a preparatory mode, instead of waiting to see if it happens and then be without water for bathing, for any purposes. So I kind of jumped into action, that haphazardly, pretty proactively, and came up with a few things I could do. Then that's not be all and end all. It doesn't solve all the water problems, but will allow me to have 2 sources of one, drinking water, should the water be contaminated with salt and the pipes be rusted, and also a way to bathe or shower using a source we'll talk about, to put that water that we get the good water into there and shower with that. So those would handle 2 of the mainstays of what you would use. Obviously, for the restroom, you don't have to have less. It's okay if salt. Well, it's not okay if you rust your pipes, but it really doesn't affect your person as a whole. But drinking and showering, you need to have clean water for that. So that's the decision. And so what we might do is we might dedicate the November session to that presentation. Might be totally boring to you. I don't need to know about that. I live in Timbuktu. But if it does, we're weighing it. We've been postponing it because we've seen improvement to the point that every Thursday they give the Corps of Engineers, who are responsible for controlling our water systems and building these levees and whatever, they give an updated report. And the latest one today is that we might not get impacted at all, which would mean what I've done, even though it's a little bit expensive, not a lot, compared to some things you can be very expensive, some people have put out. We'll talk about that in the show. It's just a way to do it. Might that be relevant? How are we doing with time? We must be getting close. Okay. Well, we've got about 7 minutes. We need to get any questions or anything, huh? No. Okay. So I guess people are busy. We understand. Go Saints go. Happy Halloween. We're so excited. This Saturday is our annual Crew of Boo, B-O-O, parade. This is just like a Mardi Gras parade. People always come for Mardi Gras, which is great because we have so many of those parades. But X number of years ago, they developed one with the Halloween theme. Each float is a standard type float that they use in the Mardi Gras floats, but decorated and sponsored by a particular organization. So it'll be something related to Halloween, whether it's monsters, ghosts, witches, etc. And the riders are on there, and they throw Halloween. Well, they throw anything they want, but there's also a lot of Halloween paraphernalia that they can throw free to the watching public. So we always go to the beginning because we have several lady friends that are on one of the key floats, and we hope to clean up, and we hope to say hello to them because they're all excited about it. As everyone knows, the ones who ride in these floats, whether it's Boo or Mardi Gras, are thrilled to death. They love it, love it, love it. And of course, the audience, the people who go in person, love it, love it, love it, because human nature takes over. They get greedy and they walk away with tons of stuff, mostly unnecessary, but still rewarding in some respect. So a lot of these take it home when they're from out of city, out of state, and then give it away, or some of them sell it on eBay. So there's all kind of things you can do with this loot, even though normally some people would say, well, that's just trash. Anyway, enough about that. So if you happen to be in New Orleans this weekend, and a lot of people have come, they come for next weekend as well, the Crew of Boo Parade is Saturday afternoon starting around 6, going through the French Quarter, cross Canal, and ending up in what we call the Warehouse District. So if you have nothing else to do, or you really want to see something unique for New Orleans, if you've never been to Mardi Gras, this is your opportunity. It doesn't cost you a dime, and yes, I promise you, you'll come away with something that may or may not be worthwhile. Okay, we appreciate those who watch for us. We do appreciate your understanding our situation with regard to balancing days, to trying to keep it on the same schedule as much as possible. So you do have a happy Halloween. If we don't have our scheduled thing in November, you have a happy Thanksgiving. Okay, until such time, this is Bob Bockelman. Remember, resources resolutions. You can join us for free. You can join meetup.com to find out about us. You can contact us through our channels, social media channels, or email, whatever, Facebook, any place I'm on. You can contact us with any question you might have or comment you might make. Until the next session in November, thank you for viewing and take care.